And today we get to hear from Elise Darrow, who I'm so excited. She's one of my favorite people. She's a force in the field. She is a TVI. She's an O&M specialist and the manager of the CVI Initiative program at the Anchor Center for Blind Children out in Colorado. The Anchor Center is really a big leader in the CVI community, especially for our EI population. They're doing a lot of work and research around NICU screenings and just really getting CVI on the radar early in the medical community as well. So I'm so excited to learn from Elise today. And she's here to talk all about routine-based learning and what you can do with your kid right now, right in front of you. And of course, post questions in the chat, I'll monitor them. And Elise, are you okay with answering questions after your presentation? Does
that
work? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Great.
Take it away.
Thanks, Rachel. Yeah, so my name is Elise Darrow. I work in Denver, Colorado at Anchor Center. I've been at Anchor for about 8 years. I'm going on my 9th year. So been around for a while, and it's a very unique population because we have the littles, the 0 to 5-year-olds. This is just about myself, which Rachel already did. So I'm going to breeze past that and tell you more about Anchor Center. So our mission is to teach visually impaired infants, young children, and families to provide them hope in a nurturing environment where children can reach their highest potential. So frequently we get referrals from hospitals and eye doctors saying, your baby can't see, your baby is blind, you need to go to Anchor Center. They come here, they're devastated, but then we say, no, your child has usable vision and let's maximize on their potential. So it's a great place to set them up for being successful in life. We have various programs at Anchor Center. We have a home visit program for early intervention specifically. We have center-based infants, toddlers, and preschool programming. So they come to Anchor Center to learn how to use and maximize their vision. And excuse me, we also do a robust assessment for functional vision and specifically around CVI. We partner with children's eye physicians in Children's Hospital Colorado and their pediatric ophthalmologists. We have a eye clinic here in-house, and those eye doctors come to us and perform eye doctor appointments, and our TVI sit in on those appointments. So it's, again, another robust opportunity for all of us, practitioners, medical professionals, and families to learn from each other. So it's a really great place. If you're ever out here, I encourage you to stop by and say hi. We'd love to show you around. So a big thing that we focus on at Anchor Center is the expanded core curriculum, the ECC. It's the foundation of our teaching. Kids throughout their entire lives from 0 to 21 and beyond need to have the foundation of the ECC to learn about what's going on. So they need it specifically to learn about the school curriculum while they're learning about history, math, reading, science. And then it provides them with the knowledge and the skills necessary to access that curriculum. Children learn incidentally by seeing and doing. 75% of what we learn is through vision. And so with visual impairments, they're limited, and we have to provide children with experiences to learn about things. And that's another core thing of what we're doing at Anchor Center. And then young children with visual impairments can learn successfully in environments when they're set up to teach them according to their unique abilities and challenges. So not one kid is the same regardless of abilities or disabilities, and that's especially true with our kids with visual impairments. So we want to set them up to teach them in a way that's meaningful to them. One of our physical therapists and TVIs wrote a book that was published by Perkins, and it focuses on teaching young children who have visual impairments. It's particularly focused on teaching with the ECC in mind and gives examples for activities. And one of the quotes that I like from the book is, "A sighted child will learn simply by observing and imitating the activities of those around him or her, but teaching basic independent living skills and concepts to a child with a visual impairment is a much greater challenge. It requires creativity, patience, and thoughtful adaptations by caregivers and parents." And so that's really the meat of what this presentation will entail, is how can we create a meaningful learning opportunity for our kids that have CVI. All of the children who have photos and videos in this presentation have a CVI diagnosis. So you'll see examples of teaching them with the ECC in mind. To start, I just want you to think about what your child enjoys. By paying attention to what your child enjoys, it will help you better understand what's easier for them to see and when they may have more difficulty with using their vision. I think we can all say when our child goes to the grocery store, it might be overwhelming. When they're in crowded environments, it's overwhelming. So just paying attention to what they enjoy or what they don't like might help you be a better advocate for knowing when it's easier for them to use their vision or when it's more difficult. You'll have a better understanding of what they like to look at and what they don't like to look at. Oh yeah, I noticed that they like looking at their Elmo toy. I noticed that they like looking at the ceiling fan. Those are common things that we hear, but you're paying attention to these things so that you can tell other people, oh, they do like that or they don't like that. As you discover more about your child, you can better explain to others how they're using their vision, and you're also becoming a better advocate for knowing what they can or they cannot understand with their vision. So for key things to remember throughout this presentation, there's two things. Think about things that your child likes and think about their processing time. What can you do in this time of, if you're waiting for services, or in this time of, I just got a diagnosis, or I have a toddler, I don't know what to do? I think the biggest thing that you can do is observe. I think that my child likes things that have light in them. A lot of toys in the stores have lights, and that's because they're captivating for all kids, not just kids with CVI. But I think that can be particular to kids with CVI. You say, oh yeah, my kid does like it when things light up. This photo shows an example of a student at Anchor Center who was shown rubber ducks, had no interest in them, but they were turned on with a flashlight. So the light was underneath the rubber duck, and all of a sudden he was very interested in it and he went to grab it to play with it. So that's huge. You can say, oh, actually, I think my kid does like light. What does your child like to do? This is a picture of a student and a teacher on a swing. And so if you think about, okay, let's go to the park and let's try out a swing, you can figure out, yes, my child does like this, or no, my child does not like that. Maybe they do like it a lot. Maybe they absolutely don't like swinging. And that may be an indicative thing of a factor to consider for their vision. When they're swinging, the world is moving so fast and it's just hard for them to use their vision, and all those other vestibular senses are going crazy. Maybe they don't like it at all. So just, again, observe, what does your child like? What doesn't your child like? I'm going to play a video, and this is a video of one of our teachers working with a baby, and there are crinkly books, so they make noises, and they're bright red, and then there's a high contrast black and white one. So the teacher is encouraging the baby to look at the books first before playing with them.
Lo tienes. Okay, otra vez. Bien? ¿Estás bien? ¿Prefiere en el suelo? Ok, vamos a sentar en el suelo. 1, 2, 3. Ok, ¿y ahora? ¡Ah! ¡Lo tienes! ¡Qué bien!
So first of all, I just wanted to say that there are a few videos in this presentation, and if it's hard to hear, it's okay. Or if you can't hear at all, it's okay. The sound isn't crucial to understanding what's going on, and I'll explain what's happening. But second, this teacher is trying to get this baby to use her vision, not her other senses, to look and then interact with the book. So we're just observing, yeah, they like this red book. Yeah, they like this high contrast book. Figure out what your baby likes and then use those for them to get them to use their vision. So we're going back to another key thing to remember in this presentation, which is processing time. Our kids with CVI will take a lot of extra time to think about what they're seeing, think about what's happening around them, think about what they're hearing, etc. You may hear this processing time referred to as wait time. And if we allow for the time to give them the time to process things, we're giving them the opportunity to engage with and do things on their own. So examples of what that looks like for all of our kids with CVI, babies through adulthood, whatever it is, they're working on processing. So watch these videos and think about the fact that each of the children are looking or hearing and then processing that information. How long does it take them to do something in return? So this first video shows a baby with CVI whose teacher wanted him to look at a high contrast mat and lift the circular flap, which also made a little crinkly noise from the material. So watch his processing time. Yay, he did it. So from the time that video started to the time that he lifted his arm to lift the flap, it took him 57 seconds. And that's not counting the time that from when the teacher introduced it and showed it to him. So it took probably over a minute for him to process that, look at it, think about it, lift his arm to do something. This next video shows a preschool student who was participating in an I Spy activity. He understood that there were stuffed animal birds taped on the wall and there was a ball on his lap, and that his objective was to throw the ball at the birds. So let's watch as he processes the activity of the video, or of the throwing activity.
Whoa, there you go. Now where's the ball? All of these guys are just so far out of the classroom. I mean, I think it's very obvious. And they like to be engaged and involved and up, and it's really cool. He sees that. Did you get him?
And yay, he threw the ball. So of the video footage that we saw, it took him 42 seconds to move his arm up and throw the ball. Now that doesn't count for how long it took for the teacher to explain it and then for the teacher to wait for it. So there probably, again, was probably around up to a minute or more for him to take the time to process the activity, see what he was supposed to do, and then do the activity. This last video shows a preschool student who has been presented with speech output switches to make a yes or a no choice during circle time. So two teachers are holding the switches on either side of his head, and they've asked if he wants them to sing to him or not, and we'll watch him process this and make the decision.
Ethan came to school today. Or
No.
do you want us to sing to you?
Yes.
Yes! Ethan took the green switch. He said, yes, I want you to sing to me. Let's sing to our friend Ethan. Ethan came to school today.
So that wasn't a traditional preschool student saying, yeah, I want you to sing to me, but he was presented with the time to process what was being asked of him, and also the ability to say what he wanted. It wasn't required that he look at the switches to make the decision for himself, which was a great way to help him with the processing as well. It just kind of eliminated one more thing in the midst of the busy preschool circle time classroom environment. So students with CVI get to learn about the world in creative ways, and it really depends on others to help make the creativity meaningful. Key aspects to working with young children who have visual impairments and CVI is establishing routines within each activity. And so what do I mean with that of establishing routines? At Anchor Center, our caregivers are coached to teach their child the beginning and end of each activity. So we focus on the start and the end, and that helps with establishing routines, which will be beneficial for them for the rest of their lives. For kids with CVI, especially if they learn to anticipate the start or the end of an activity, they are in that much more control of what's happening around them, which will set them up to be in a good state to learn. So this is a video of a preschool class circle time again, and the teacher signifies the end of circle time by ringing a bell and then sings a song. And this song is sung at the end of each activity at Anchor Center, whether that's time to clean up, that playtime is over, lunch is over, or they're working on washing their hands in the bathroom. If they hear the song being sung, then they will learn to understand, okay, we're finished and we're ready to move on to the next activity. So I'll play this video to give you an idea of what the song is. So if you're able to implement this with your child in a way that is unique to them understanding, they may not be operating in a state of wondering what's going to happen next, and it will make it probably more enjoyable for them because they'll learn to anticipate what's going on, and they don't have to always be in a fearful state like, oh no, somebody's going to pick me up, or oh no, somebody's going to grab my hand and put it in some goo that I don't like, whatever that may be. A simple countdown of, okay, we're all done getting dressed, I'm going to pick you up, 1, 2, 3. That's a way to signify the end of an activity. It helps them anticipate and know we're done with this one thing, now we're moving on to the next. So we've talked about things to think about and how to bookend learning activities and learning routines. So now let's discuss what you can do with your child with routines that you're already doing at home. I'll preface, I just had a baby, and since I've been in the field for a few years, these things are always constantly in my mind. So my baby gets to be in some of the pictures because I'm like, oh my gosh, not only is this good for her, but it's also good for babies with visual impairments, babies with CVI. So she's in some of the pictures. So I also forgot to mention that for the ECC components, I have highlighted the domains that it's specific to, just because the ECC guides our teaching. So that's how this presentation will guide or flow. So we want to encourage you to turn everyday routines that happen in the home into purposeful learning opportunities. What does that look like and what do I mean? For infants, letting them be a part of daily chores that need to get done can be purposeful in letting them learn. So letting them be active participants through listening, touch, smelling, seeing in natural environments will help with this. Wearing a front pack and carrying them around in the kitchen is what I mean by this. The sounds of pots and pans clanging, the sound and feel of the water running from the sink, the aromas from the food being prepared help encourage their active participation to learn what's going on around them, versus if they were just in the living room hearing what is going on, they're more passive. If you have laundry to do, put your baby in the laundry basket so that as you take the warm clothes out of the dryer, they're learning about what's happening around them. They're being more active participants with that activity. Their senses will be alerted to different environments, the laundry basket, the temperature, the warm clothes, and the textures and the sounds. To get older children to be active participant in independent living skill development, get something that they're familiar with. So this is a picture of one of our students and his caregivers, and he knows what his shoes look like because he sees them every day, maybe multiple times a day. His shoes came off and then he started crawling to it. So we used his shoe as a motivating factor for him to work on his visual skill development. Let's put your shoe over there. You see it. Now we're going to crawl to it. So it just became a motivating thing for him to look at and then move toward as he navigated that obstacle course at Anchor Center. So even if children aren't yet oral eaters, letting them explore what different smells, tastes, and textures will wake up those senses to learn about feeding and eating times. Letting them explore with different spoons helps them with the exposure of different utensils and also gets them comfortable with putting things around or having things around their mouths. So these are just examples of different spoons that babies have access to. This picture shows one of our students who is exploring pureed foods, not only with an adapted spoon, it's a little nip toothbrush thing. He's exploring it with his mouth, but he's also putting his hands in it. And that's waking up all his senses, teaching him about feeding and eating. Consider the contrast of foods during mealtimes too. Sometimes natural colored foods may be hard to see on white plates. Likewise, colorful foods like Fruit Loops might be hard to see if you put them on a red plate. So to help with those visual attention, putting them on something that's easy to see will be helpful for them. And also there might be some glare issues from the light above, like we see on this white plate. Just things to consider if you're thinking about how can I work on their visual attention, just think of those things. So children with CVI will have to learn to use different methods to learn about things that they'll encounter in the world. If they cannot reliably use their vision for an activity, teaching them to use their touch, hearing, and vestibular senses, other senses will help. So for infants, letting them explore so that they feel safe and secure is the key. If a baby's vision is disrupted and things are happening to the baby, then they may be startled and alarmed and cry because so much is happening to them. By setting them up to let them be in control helps them not be maybe in an alarmed and startled state. So letting children learn with a multi-sensory approach is very beneficial, and it's beneficial for all students, not just those babies. This picture shows a preschool student who is in the midst of the pizza thematic unit for preschool. He's looking at both an image on a backlit tablet screen of a pizza. There's a whole real pizza right next to him. And then he's also eating a pizza. So this is a very comprehensive opportunity for him to learn about pizzas. And it's very multi-sensory approach. And it's also fun for him because he likes to eat. The second photo shows a mom and a daughter with a teacher. Together, they're doing a craft activity of building a snowman using different textures, a tactile snowman. And what we don't see in this photo is a bucket of snow that was brought indoors from outside. And so this child is exploring in many different ways. And then this last photo shows a teacher doing a horticulture activity. They went on a walk around the Anchor Center gardens and collected objects they found on the walk, and they're making something for the student to take home to help her remember the experience of going through the walk in the garden. They picked up pine cones and dried herbs in the greenhouse, and they're bottling those objects up for her to take home. Sighted children can learn about gardens, going on walks in pine cones from the page of a book. But for children with CVI, having them experiencing these things will make it more meaningful for them to learn. For children with CVI, they may rely on other senses to learn about things as they're doing certain activities, because they may use their vision better during some activities than others. And for those other times, we can help with their sensory efficiency and sensory processing. This picture shows a baby as he's laying in a large sensory bin, and it's filled with toys that are various sizes and textures and shapes. And once he was in the sensory bin, his parents stepped back and just let him be in control of exploring. So again, things aren't happening to him, but he gets to move his arms and his legs to learn about things. For toddlers, focusing on one thing at a time can be important. Things may be happening to him or to children, and they'll react in ways that we interpret as behavioral. But if you can imagine things happening to you, you would probably do the same thing and cry because you don't want that to be happening. So this picture shows a mom lowering her toddler into a kiddie pool, and she's trying to make it as easy and possible for him by putting his feet in first. Because he is nervous, you can tell that he's kind of clenched up, but if you put his feet in first, it might be a less invasive way for him to understand, okay, we're approaching the water. And then maybe he'll warm up to it and be willing to flap his arms around and play with the water with his hands. So if you introduce something like a new texture at their level by having them explore with their feet first, that's a good thing to have them do versus their hands might be pulled up and they don't want to touch with their hands. It's just a little bit less threatening and a little less alarming. So for preschoolers, having them learn with a multisensory approach adds to what they're learning and how they're putting concepts together. This picture shows a preschool student who is sitting in a sensory bin that's filled with sand and toys that can be found in a sandbox. So again, maybe she's not sitting in the sandbox itself, but the sand was brought to her and she can learn at her own pace. Children with visual impairments may miss out on learning from social norms and social cues. And for kids with CVI especially, faces are so hard to recognize and understand. So we have to be really intentional when we teach about social interactions and social skills. So for infants, again, we go back to them feeling secure in order to encourage them to engage with another person. For toddlers, teaching them to recognize people by the sound of their voice, the color of their hair, the glasses that they wear, can help them with eventual facial recognition. And for preschoolers, especially preschoolers with CVI, they may not engage in what we consider to be typical peer interactions by playing pat a cake, because that's pretty visual, or Simon says, touch your hands. You know, they're not watching the teacher say, Simon says, touch your hands. So they don't understand that. Or if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. You know, that's a very visual thing. So we have to tap into our creative juices and think of how to make it meaningful to them to engage in those social interactions. In preschool, they may have assistive technology devices that help with communication. So let's set them up for talking with their peers and using their communication devices to interact with each other. Self-determination is big for all students who have visual impairments, but especially for young ones. To encourage babies to be determined to do something for themselves, we go back to observing and finding out what they like to do, what they like to look at, hear, etc. Exposing them to different textures or activities to broaden their knowledge of what they have experienced will help with that. So for all children with CVI, using something that's motivating can help with their self-determination. Before, we saw a little boy determined to look at his shoes and chase after those. And we'll continue to use those types of things for all of our students. So lots of our students use gait trainers or walkers, but they may not understand why they've been placed in the walker and what they're supposed to do. But if you find something that your child likes to look at or play with, use it to get them to be determined to move towards something. Lots of our kids like water, so let's use water as a way to reach for something that they're looking at that's in the water. So This photo on the far right shows a student who found a roll of blue painter's tape at Anchor Center. And guess what? She loved it. So we got her to move along in her gait trainer by placing the roll of tape throughout the building, and she moved toward it all over the place. And not only was she moving toward it using her walker, but when she was out of her walker, she would move independently by scooting on her back. And what do you know? She was moving all over the place on her back trying to get that blue roll of tape. So it may not be the mundane things that we think of, like toys that are light up and have noise and stuff. Just observe and figure out what your baby likes. So young children with visual impairments have to learn about their own bodies in very different ways than what we learned, because we had reliable vision to learn about things. So as you get your baby dressed in the morning, talk about the shirt going over their head, and then first the right arm through that sleeve, then the left arm, and you're teaching them about their own bodies. And then they'll be able to learn about not only where their body is in space, but where their body is in space in relation to other things. And that's the core of orientation and mobility. We want to encourage our students to be movers, however that looks, whether that's walking or scooting, whatever they're learning about what their body can do, we want to encourage them to do that. So in Colorado, it snows a lot, and we have great snow removal companies who shovel our grounds at Anchor Center, which is very helpful. But sometimes we need that snow on the sidewalk to teach our students how to navigate through the snow. So put it back on the sidewalk, make it fun and safe for them to learn about walking through snow in their gait trainers or something. We think back to the picture of the girl that we saw making a tactile snowman, and there being snow in the classroom. And I know it snows a lot in the Massachusetts Northeast area, so you can do the same thing. Go get a bowl from your kitchen, put some snow in it, bring it inside, let your baby play with that snow, or put it back on the sidewalk and go for a walk and talk about walking over the snow, the sound that the snow makes when you walk across it. These will always just present lots of learning opportunities for your child.
Head, shoulders, knees and toes, head, shoulders, knees and toes.
So that's a song that we're all familiar with, but I want you to watch as these children are singing the song. There's no audio with this video. Not playing. Oh, is it? It's not playing, but you get an idea that they're all looking at the teacher who is doing the moves. So for our kids with CVI who may not be able to do that, teaching them with body awareness is something that you have to do and be creative with. So have your baby sit in your lap, put your hands under their arms and help guide their arms to feel their head, their shoulders, their knees and toes. Just think about ways to be creative with things like that. So activities like music, movement games, manipulative toys, gardening, playing in nature, these are all things that help with the recreation and leisure thing with the expanded curriculum. Whatever a child is doing for fun is rec and leisure, and we can set it up for our students to have fun. It just might look different. So this photo shows a student in his gait trainer. He's wearing tap shoes. And there is a metal cookie sheet underneath those shoes. So when he moves his feet, it's making a really fun sound. This is our music therapist doing music activities with our students. She has a ukulele, and this student doesn't have to use her arms to drum. She can use her feet. Likewise, this preschool student's using his feet to explore the sensory beads in that little kiddie pool. So I've already touched on this a bit, but you may think, how can you teach your children about the world that's so vast and so big? And the key is to bring the world to your child. So you probably have found yourself saying, see those flowers are over there, aren't they pretty? Oh, the leaves are changing now that it's fall. What color are the leaves? Or see those tall, pretty sunflowers? No, maybe our kids can't see them or understand what you mean by that. So bring the world to them. Let's walk over to the flowers. Let's pick them. These are the flowers that are so beautiful. The leaves on the tree, they all fall to the ground, just like the snow. Pick up those leaves, bring them inside, and let's talk about the leaves. Those sunflowers are tall, but what does that mean? Pick your child up, have them reach up. And yeah, that is really tall. That's a big sunflower that's really tall. Another domain of the expanded core curriculum is career education. Our kids need to have those foundational skills to learn about different careers, and exposing them with different activities helps with that. We have gardeners, we have mailmen, we have grocery store techs, we have lots of job opportunities, but how do we teach our young kids about that? It starts with developing routines, anticipating route transitions, just like we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. Organizational skills are huge for career education. Social interaction with family members helps with social interactions with strangers. Exposure to different types of jobs and following directions, asking for help, all those things, understanding sequence of events is foundational for career education. So the assistive technology domain of the ECC is fun, but it doesn't automatically imply that assistive technology means high-tech devices like iPads. Assistive tech helps teach our children about routines and communication, and we can do that by starting with low-tech devices, which is important so that they understand what they're looking at and what the object is representing. So tactile schedule boards are used a lot at Anchor Center. This is an example of a tactile schedule board for preschool. First, they have circle, and this is a piece of the circle time rug that they sit on. Then they do yoga, and this is a piece of the yoga mat. Then they're going to go change their diapers. This is a diaper. And then they're going to go eat snack, and this is a spoon. So it's a sequence of events. It's tactile so that they can understand what those objects mean. Cause and effect toys are lots of fun, and it's a foundational skill for assistive technology because when they press something, something happens, and it's cause and effect, and they love to do it. Then assistive technology for high-tech devices of using communication devices is really fun for our students, but we have to start with our low-tech portion to progress to the high-tech parts. So young students who have CVI require creative ways to experience learning. You got to think about, how can I make this meaningful for my child? And it's lots of fun. It's really meaningful for them once they're in a state where they can learn about those things. It takes creativity and patience from adults to implement the components of the ECC, but it's worth it. And then key components to working with young children who are establishing routines, as with every activity, is understanding their communication. And that goes back to observing them, knowing what they do like, what they don't like. And then you'll understand what's happening in order for them to be able to communicate.
Really wonderful just to be able to feel like we're sitting in the room with an expert, who knows CVI, who knows this population so well. And I just loved your presentation, giving so many great concrete ideas and tangible ideas to, just start working with our kids. There's so much we do already, and just even within the everyday and with your routines, there's so much you can infuse and work in. We don't have to do all this crazy extra stuff. That's right. It's what's meaningful. So thank you for everything. And thank you all for tuning in and making the time. Thank you so much for joining us. To learn more about CVI, go to cvinow.org. Answers you can trust and community you can count on.